r/ask Reddit. Solo travelers. What is your creepiest travel story? Had some dude try to haul me off my first day in Berlin. He stopped to ask me a question when I was in Tiergarten and proceeded to grab me by the wrist and refused to let me go. I had told him I was going to Alexanderplatz and he started dragging me out of the park, telling me he would show me a shortcut that he insisted would only take 5 minutes to get there. For those of you that have never been, it's at least a 30-minute walk. I was so panicked I didn't know what to do and couldn't even scream. All I could think was that he was going to take to somewhere where no one would be able to help me. I had a friend who I was staying with in the city text me at the right time and managed to beg off and say she was waiting for me back at Brandenburger Tor station, which was the opposite direction. He only let me go if I open-mouth kissed him goodbye and gave me his number, which he made me call so he was sure I had the right one. He was pulling me towards the Holocaust Memorial, so after he let go I rushed to it and hid in it so he wouldn't follow me. Funnily enough, that night was the first day of the 2014 World Cup. I was still really shaken, but still wanted to watch the game. I also wanted to go somewhere where I could talk to people in English because I was very duck dealing with Germans at that point. I ended up at an Irish bar and the Irish bartender is now my husband and we live in Berlin. I'm so glad this took such a good ending. In Argentine Patagonia, almost got hunted by a puma. It was dusk and I was overlooking the lake when I heard rustling behind me in the tree line. I kept staring for a while before I saw it and thank God I didn't make a run for it as it would have been my initial reaction. Instead I started yelling and cursing and throwing rocks at it as I had been told to do by the locals, and it left me alone. That night I kept a fire lit until late in the evening and then went to sleep with a flashlight on and my knife at hand, and that's not to sound badass. I never used it to hunt and I was scared as shit. Traveling in Asia at the time, I got a tuk-tuk to go to the center of a village with a young driver. We started driving and he turned around while telling me he wouldn't take me to the center of the village because he knew a better spot in the jungle, a place he and his friends loved. I told him no. I want to go to the center of the village and that's it. He got angry and sped up while I was considering my chances of just jumping out. But then he also grabbed my arm in a tight grip so I knew for sure no good would come from the situation. Luckily for me I had an umbrella with me and with my free hand I started slamming him with it as hard as I could till he stopped the vehicle and he offered me to take me to the center of the village. LOL. No, I ended up walking 3 hours to the village. I had planned one more day there and was constantly confronted by people that I was the girl who attacked the tuk-tuk driver offering me rides. Pretty sure they were his friends. I strictly stayed in busy areas till I was able to take a train out. F that situation. My friend's buddy, female, apparently got sick in Thailand and decided to take the tuk-tuk back to the hotel by herself. She told the group to continue without her since she didn't want to spoil their fun. She went missing ever since that. This just got dark. Waking up to my hotel room being burgled was real annoying. Thankfully the only thing taken was my petty cash before I woke up and chased him out. Looks like they put on glasses checked out. I was going from Barcelona to Granada, Spain. I am originally from Serbia, so I don't speak any Spanish. Next to me sat a guy 5 years older than me and for no reason at all. He started talking to me in terrible English about how much of a beach his ex was. When we reached our destination, he asked for my phone number which I gave because I was an idiot and didn't want to sound rude. Long story short, the dude kept harassing me with phone calls and texts asking me to meet up for sex, telling me that he will tell his friends to find me and what he will do to me when he finds me. I blocked his number but he texted me from a different one. Some would really go to that extent. These people are desperate. When did this guy stop? I had told him I'd only stay in Granada for 2 nights but in reality I had planned to stay for a week. After those 2 nights passed, he stopped. He must have thought I had left the city or he found someone else to terrorize. There is a depressing amount of rape stories on this post. Makes me really ducking upset. I honestly think the statistics on this are way underreported. Nearly every woman I've met has experienced it, yet the statistics indicate it is rare. There need to be safer avenues to report it. I was staying in a B&B in Donegal. island where every room on the floor shared a bathroom. I went in one morning to pee and there was a man with his pants around his ankles asleep in the bathtub. The soap dish and towel rack were all torn off the wall and it appeared he had fallen over while relieving himself and fallen in the tub. While struggling to get out with his pants down, he had torn things from the wall. He then proceeded to pass out. I woke the man and helped him from the tub, after which he proceeded to hug me and declare me his hero. And this is how I ended up embraced by a drunken Irishman with his pant around his ankles. I spent a week in Dusseldorf traveling around and never encountered anything creepy. Get to the airport for my flight home and started getting followed by a border control man. He ends up swapping with another person for the security part, meaning I had to go through his security bit. The whole time he's asking me personal thing. Do you like Turkish men? Would you like to go to dinner with a Turkish man? Where are you from? How many Turkish men are near you? I know loads in Scotland. I'm assuming the man was Turkish after these questioning. I ended up having to get patted down and he made sure to watch. By this point it was beyond uncomfortable. Once I was finished, he continued to follow me through duty free. I start walking faster to get away from him. Have lunch with me, he starts shouting down the airport. I jumped straight on my phone and called my dad and hid behind a shelf and duty free till I saw him walk past trying to find me. Stayed hidden in the toilet till my flight was boarding. Through all these questioning I never even answered him. I'm not a rude person, but with this guy I was. Almost got mugged in Paris on the steps of Sacré-Cœur, surrounded by 5 assailants and had no choice but to shout at the top of my lungs. As soon as I did, they scattered. I once flew from Anchorage, AK, to Valdez, AK. The Valdez airport is so quiet and empty it was spooky. When I went to Prague, my GF was supposed to come too, but due to circumstances couldn't. I spent money on this trip and didn't want it to be wasted, so I went on my own. One night I decided to go to a local club, which was amazing. Where I live the club is crap and closes at 3 AM at the latest. So this was a nice change to be able to leave at 5 AM and the club wasn't even closed yet. I started walking home, which was about a half an hour walk, when a taxi driver pulled up next to me and asked if I wanted a taxi. I said no, as I didn't have enough money, but he insisted and said I could ride for free. I clarified around 4 times before I got in and he seemed okay with it. Bear in mind I was quite drunk, so I wasn't thinking straight at all. It was only around a 7-minute drive to my hotel, and as we pulled up outside, I heard the car doors lock. The driver then proceeded to try and charge me over £150 for a 7-minute drive. Considering Prague is generally cheaper than the UK, and in the UK at that time of night I would usually only pay around £15. So £150 is outrageous. I told him I wouldn't pay and he shouted at me and threatened to call the police. I shouted back and basically told him to duck off. He then started to drive again with me in the car. I started kicking his chair and hit his head from behind whilst climbing over the seat. In the end he slowed down and unlocked the door but refused to stop moving. He was only going around 15 miles per hour, but I had to jump out of a moving vehicle. My mum, over 40 years ago, went backpacking around Europe. At the end of her trip she ended up in Germany with no money left and only a plane ticket to get home. But the plane was from Paris to Canada, so she had to find a way to get to Paris. She hitchhiked her way towards the German-Belgian border with people who were high, and once they dropped her off she immediately found someone else who was willing to take her beyond the border, but within 10 minutes she noticed he was taking her away from the highway and taking small roads, and she got scared. Since she didn't want to inform him that she knew something was up, she just kept talking about her trips and added some not so pleasant details. Talking about how she had recently caught her STD that gave her really painful and disgusting boils all over her genitals. They were quickly back on the highway and he dropped her off 50 meters away from the border before vanishing. 2 days later she landed in Canada safely and STD free. She didn't tell me any of this until I was well in my 20s. While I was in Puerto Viejo, Costa Rica, a man in his early 50s was stabbed and killed for his backpack containing photography equipment. I am a man in my early 50s and at the time I was traveling with a backpack containing photography equipment. I once got lost outside of Modena, Italy. I didn't speak Italian, and once I realized I was lost I started asking around for directions. No one in the town spoke English. I mean no one. To the point that I thought maybe people were ducking with me. They probably were, but at the time I remember feeling very afraid. Almost as if it was one of those towns from a bad horror movie. I can assure you that they were not, in fact, ducking with you. In Italy it's very uncommon for an adult to know English even in tourist area like Modena, especially if we are talking about 5+ years ago. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.